Hey everybody, it's your girl Planet Tot on deck. I hope you guys are having a great day, afternoon, and or evening whenever you guys are seeing this. So thank you guys so much for tuning in with me. You guys already know I appreciate that. So today I'll be covering the case of Gilberto Valle. The question is, when does a thought become a crime? If you guys want to hear the story of Gilberto Valle, and why I pose this question right now. Back on deck. You guys already know I appreciate that. So without further ado, let's jump right into the story time. So Gilberto Valle was born on April the 4th, 1984 in Queens, New York, where he attended Archbishop Motley High School and then later the University of Maryland, where he graduated in 2006 with a degree in psychology. Now, psychology is a very, very cool degree to have, especially if you are a person who is curious about how the mind works, how to work with the mind, how to persuade people, convince people. Persuade and convince are first cousins, I know. But how to deal with the mind, I think that's a great degree. That's very helpful for what he does later on in his journey. So Gilberto joined the New York Police Department in 2006 and was assigned to the 26th precinct in Morningside Heights, Manhattan. Now, I personally think psychology and being a police officer actually go hand in hand. So because there's so many different people that you can come in contact with that you will need to meet on their level right where they are. And if you have skills in knowing how to talk to people, how to negotiate with people, how to get people to de-escalate, it's probably going to be a lot helpful or more easier for, for a police officer. In other professions, it would be helpful too, like for a doctor to calm down somebody who was like really excited and so forth. But also I just think that particular degree went really well for what he chose to do later in life. So he was 25 years old, living with his father in Queens, New York, when in 2009 he met Kathleen Manigan on OkCupid. Now, as you guys know, OkCupid is an online dating site. It's a story that I covered not too long ago about this other lady who met a guy on OkCupid. But anyhow, it's an online dating site where people, strangers, put in credentials about themselves, about what they like, what they dislike, their background, their education, what as much or as little as they want to volunteer. And then, they put up pictures and they talk about their activities and hobbies and all that stuff. And if you like what you read, you can reach out to the person or vice versa. So he was on this site, and that is where he met Kathleen. Now, Kathleen later became his wife in 2010. In Spokane, Washington, the couple got married. And then the couple had a daughter together in the year 2012. Now, everything was looking up for Valle. He had completed his education, and then he was already into his chosen career. He was doing well there in his chosen career. And then he was already successful with his education, his career, and then he met his wife. His wife, somebody who he liked, adored, had, great connection with. And then the two went ahead and married, and then they added to their family and actually had a child. So things was looking up. It was off to a great start. And then things turned weird, very weird. Okay, so on October the 25th, 2012, Valle was arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit kidnapping. The arrest occurred after his wife reported to police that she had found in his internet search engine history a series of chat room communications on Dark Fetish Net, a forum dedicated to sexual fetishes and fantasies involving torture, rape, murder, and cannibalism. Now, Gilberto had been chatting with another user about torturing and murdering his wife, as well as murdering and cannibalizing more than 100 women. Now, have you guys ever heard of these online fetish groups, right? These groups where people get in chats and they all have fetishes about an array of different things. But usually the ones who have like-minded similar fetishes will probably chat with each other more. Now, the particular chat group that Gilberto was in was, they were fantasizing about hurting people, about torturing people, about raping people, and killing people, and even eating people. So, when his wife went through his online chat forum, I would only assume that had to be very alarming for her, because it seems like, based on the testimony that she gave and what I saw, it seems is that she didn't know that part of him. That was very new to her, and it was not only new but very uncomfortable. Like, she didn't know that person at all. Yeah, but think about it. This is the person who you married, and you're just now finding out that, hey, sorry, sis, he's into this. This is what he's into, right? So, in an opening statement before Kathleen took a witness stand in Manhattan federal prosecutor Randall Jonathan told the jury that the cop plotted to kidnap and kill his wife in order to satisfy a deeply held desire he had to cannibalize human flesh. Now, you guys light up the comments and let me know your thoughts. Have you guys ever found out something that was way, to the left that you would have ever expected about a lover or a partner after you were already dating them or even married them, but you had no idea that they felt like this before? Light up the comments and let me know, what was your reaction? How did you feel? Because I can only imagine the way Kathleen must have felt. Now they're married, they have a new baby, and now she finds that, there's some kind of interest because he's in the chat rooms and he's communicating with people who are talking about fantasizing about hurting and killing their loved ones and strangers all the like. So that had to be a new, very unique experience for her. So he talked about devising an apparatus so the girls could be on a split for 30-minute shifts and be taken down so they would live longer, she said. The suffering was for his enjoyment, and he wanted to make it last as long as possible. Now, this is Kathleen now testifying in court, and she's saying what she saw in the chat rooms, that he didn't just want to kidnap and torture one woman, that it was multiple women, that that it was alleged he had plans to kidnap and torture, and how he wanted to make sure that the torture was so good and it lasted so long that he didn't want them to just wither away and die. He wanted the torture to be ongoing so they can live longer, so he can get more pleasure out of their pain. That's, to me, so disturbing, you guys. Just let's finish the story. At home, you guys have to be listening going, oh my God, what is Planet Ty talking about? Oh my God, can you guys imagine if this was your life and your situation? What would you even think that your response to something like that would be? Not like we would know unless we were in that situation, but light up the comments and let me know your thoughts. He was going to get her to an apartment and put her in a suitcase and wheel her out and deliver her for rape and murder, the wife testified. This is what the wife is testifying that he was going to do to a friend of his. Kathleen said she grew suspicion when Gilberto lost interest in sex with her following her pregnancy and birth of their daughter, and began spending hours at night on the web in their Queens home. So she first started feeling like something was wrong with her husband. This was after she found the original first search. She started feeling like, okay, something here is wrong. Right? Because she said, she got pregnant with their daughter, and after she gave birth to their daughter, he was no longer interested in having sex with her. Now, I know some guys may say, it could have been a multitude of things. Maybe he was no longer physically attracted to her. Maybe he, felt like he had an appetite for a different taste all of a sudden. It could have been so many different things. Maybe he wasn't mentally there. Who knows? But his wife, she grew very suspicious, and she said he was spending all his time on the internet, which is a really big red flag, because they were a newly married couple. They should have had the ability to be able to talk to each other about whatever was going on. So Kathleen said that she thought something was wrong with her, and that, because he wouldn't touch her. Well, he would touch her. Let me go back. She thought there was something wrong with her because one of the last times that they were actually intimate, he couldn't finish. And instead of him finishing with her, he jumped off, ran to the bathroom, and closed the door. Now, allegedly, he might have finished himself with himself, you know what I mean? Or whatever else. But then she started thinking, oh, God, what's wrong with me? He no longer with it. He no longer like it. I'm no longer his type. She started having a whole bunch of insecure thoughts, basically, right? And so when he was in the bathroom, finishing himself allegedly, or doing whatever he was doing in that bathroom, she opened his laptop, and she opened the laptop that they shared. So they shared a laptop, a family laptop, and she saw he was still logged in, and she noticed icons from a website that was called Dark Fetish Net, right? Now, So anyways, dark fetish net, I've never heard of that site before, and nor do I have any desire to go to any dark net site or anything else like that, okay? But that's what she just wanted to see what was going on. So she went in there, and she said she remembered that it was a porn site, and it was disturbing, she said. Now, it just depends, you know, if you're into that, if you're into a porn and all that other stuff, you may be interested. But this was not just regular porn, whatever that means. This was totally different type of porn. This was a whole nother level of porn that will make a lot of people cringe and actually very upset and alarmed, okay? His wife said, I know S&M is popular with 50 Shades of Grey. You guys remember that? With 50 Shades of Grey, but this seemed different to her. She said the girl on the front page was dead. And so she was very alarmed by this, okay? She said the girl on the front page was dead, and the girl had blood all over her, and she was hanging out of a window or something else like that. So it's like, okay, this is not porn. Why is she dead? Why does she have blood all over her? So she was freaked out, and I can only imagine I would have been freaked out too. But I would be like, okay, it's time to whatever this is or whatever it was, it's time to conclude it. Or I'm gonna need a very, very, very good explanation as to why you're watching something like that. Started running. So Kathleen, shortly after that, I mean, she confronted him about what she saw on his laptop, right? And she was like, basically, what's this? What's going on here? And things got bad. Things got really bad. You know, basically, he wanted to know why was she in his browse history? You know, what's it to her? You know, she had no business in his browse history or whatever else. The two started getting into arguments more frequently, and she just couldn't seem to. What she wanted to do was get back to a space of, you know, when times are good, you know, when you got that honeymoon phase, when you can't wait to see each other, when you just love being around each other, and you guys are just engulfed in each other's era, energy, everything, right? She wanted to get back to that, like, who wouldn't, right? And she was trying to get back to that, but it just seemed like something was amiss. Something wasn't really working. So she started running. Because, of course, exercise makes us feel good. It can enhance our sexy. It can, you know, do a lot of things for our confidence and everything else like that, right? So she started running to get her sexy back, basically, right? Because she thought, you know, if she was in a better shape and stuff like that, then he would start looking at her the same again, right? So she broke down in court after describing how Gilberto seemed very interested in her running route. And asked if there were street lights or many people around. And she said that he encouraged her to run specifically at night. Now, that's a huge red flag for me, because all the times that I went to the gym or even walked around the streets just getting exercise, because I love taking long walks, anybody who I was with in the past or anything else like that, no one's ever encouraged me to go walk the street at night. You guys let up the comments and let me know. I don't know. Have your spouse ever encouraged you to go take a walk at dark? I'm sorry, this is not funny. But I should also include that nobody was killed in this story, okay? So I'm not laughing at any deceased or anything else. It's the irony for me. Just like I've never known of someone to encourage their spouse to be in an unsafe situation. You guys light up the comments if you know what I mean by that. So, let's see. She said he seemed very interested in her running route and asked if there were street lights or people around. He encouraged her to run at night. She said she installed an app called Key Vlogger. It's not an app, it's software on her computer to find out what he was up to, you know, additional stuff he was up to. She said the next morning she checked the spyware and saw a lot of websites that she's never seen before, and that there was pictures of feet that would not attach to bodies. Oh my God, that would have freaked me out. What is this, Halloween night? I know we're close to, Halloween should be over now, but it's over now by the time you guys get this video. But, so you go to see what your spouse is doing on the computer, and you see a picture of detached feet. WTF? Why, you see, you know, why would you be looking at detached feet? So alarming in so many different ways. She went to a website. She said she went to a website she didn't know about, and there was a woman just on the front page. She was dangling. She was naked with blood all over her. Kathleen said she took her, at that point, she had enough, you guys. She saw what she saw. everything was weird already between them, tension, anxiety in there because she had confronted him and he basically told her to blow off, you know what I mean? So everything was already weird. The energy was off. This was not the guy in her mind that she knew, loved, respected, and wanted to be with anymore. So I think she just had enough at this point. So she took their daughter Josephine and the computer that she saw all this information on, and she returned to her hometown of Nevada. So I can't blame her at that point. Seeing all that stuff to me would have been just too cringy, too creepy. I just don't know where somebody's mind is, if they're going to be into stuff like that, especially if you don't partake in stuff like that and you never knew that side of them when you married them, you was getting to know them. It just was never a thing for you guys. And then now they're behaving that way. So, I mean, I could see why that would be much for her. So she returned to her home state of Nevada, where she called the FBI. She called the FBI and she said, look, my husband is Officer A, B, and C. This is what I've been seeing him browsing, looking at, and it's on our home computer. Remember, it was a shared home computer. So she told the FBI, and the FBI said, oh, really? Wait a minute, what did you say? So, and then she, they were curious based on what she said. So she told them, they asked her questions, and she told them about all the stuff that she saw that he was watching. And of course, that grew suspicion because one, he wasn't just anybody. He's a member of law enforcement, okay? So, I mean, and then the question becomes, is it okay, or should law enforcement be held to a different standard in different cases like that because they take an oath to protect and serve? Should they be held to different standards in certain cases? You guys let up the comments and let me know you guys' thoughts on that. I feel like in a way he should be able to watch whatever he wants to watch, right? However, I feel like when it comes to actually enacting or taking any action to bring anyone any harm, threat, or violence, or in any way, that is absolutely unacceptable. I don't care if you're law enforcement or not. It's just, it's unacceptable, right? So there's a line, is what I'm thinking. You guys let me know your thoughts on that. So, let me see. In an opening statement, public defender Julia Gatto told the jury that Gilberto's chats were merely chatter prompted by a bizarre sexual fetish. So the prosecutor basically said that, his public defender said that, this was nothing more than chatter. This was, he wasn't going to do anything with it, even though he did have the means, and it was alleged that certain items were purchased, okay, to actually be able to enact some of the crimes that were described in the chat. But you know what? The public defender said he wasn't going to do anything with it. You guys are making this whole thing way more, or better yet, not you guys, his wife was making things more than what it should have been. Under cross-examination by Gatto, Kathleen broke down again as photos of her husband holding their baby was displayed. So there's photos of Gilberto holding their daughter, and it was just their daughter Josephine, and it was too much for her to handle. So she starts crying on the stage. So she denied the lawyer's suggestion that their marriage had been a good one, noting the wedding was nice, the marriage was not. So the public defender tried to paint the picture that Kathleen and Gilberto had a wonderful marriage, basically that they had a good life together, that, he was able to provide for her and their daughter, that they were well off, they were doing okay and everything else like that. But Kathleen allegedly said, well, that's not really the case. The marriage, the wedding itself was nice, but the marriage that came thereafter and all the little in-betweens, the little this and that, and we realized that we really not feeling each other like that. Yeah, well, by the time she realized that, she said, no, that wasn't really the case. Now, according to authorities, Gilberto used the police database to collect information on his potential victims and planned his attack with co-conspirators online. Although nobody was actually harmed in the case, the FBI... although nobody was actually harmed in the case, the FBI were involved, and they did pick the case up, and they did go ahead and move towards filing charges against Gilberto. Okay, his wife testified against him during that trial. Throughout the trial, Gilberto claimed that the chat room communication was more fantasy and that he had no intention of acting on any of the things that he said that he was going to do in that chat room. Okay. However, regardless of what he said and regardless of the public defender saying that, you know, it was just fantasy, you guys, it was all a fantasy. This was all, you know, what he could do if in a fantasy land, in an altered reality, not necessarily here in the real world, you know, which is where we are in 5D, you know. So, and he said himself, you know, it was just a fantasy. Now, when the whole time that Kathleen was testifying during this case, Gilberto had his head down. He was crying. You know, he was very remorseful. He likely was probably very embarrassed, I would say, at this point. One, that his whole life is on display now. Two, you know, he had an admirable job as a police officer. Think about it, you guys. That's a respectable profession, okay? So he had a respectable profession as a police officer, and then now the police officer is on trial based on what he did in his home and the fact that his wife called him out on it. So there had to be some embarrassment going on, which prompted his tears. There's probably some resentment going on. There's some frustration and all that other stuff, right? So he was crying with his head down some of the time, and he was found guilty of all charges in March 2013. They found him guilty. Now, Judge Paul G. Gardefee of the Federal District Court overturned Gilberto's conviction on the conspiracy charge in June 2014, saying the evidence supported his contention that he was engaged in only fantasy role play. At that time, he had already served 21 months of his prison sentence. So regardless of the fact that the verdict was overturned, he had already served 21 months in jail. Now, in a very recent video that I saw of him up to date, I did see a video where he said his life was changed forever and that, you know, his credibility was gone and that, you know, he could never get that part of it back. So there is supposed to be a pending lawsuit that he has, I guess, against I don't know who he's suing exactly. I don't know if it's maybe it's the justice system as a whole is who he's going out to. Yeah, it's probably the justice system as a whole. Now, let's see what else. It said the United States Courts of Appeal. Okay, so another thing that I saw is that up to date, Gilberto was said to be currently working as a safety officer for a construction company. Okay, his story garnered a lot of media attention, and it was told and or betrayed by several projects. Like, let's see, a memoir called Raw Deal, the untold story of NYPD's Cannibal Cop is what they labeled him, where the author raised the question of when a thought becomes a crime. So, and you know, because the public defender has spent so much time saying that, you know, this was just a fantasy, it wasn't going to come true, this was just in an altered state of reality, he did not hurt anyone. Do you guys feel at home that he should have served time based on, you know, the different online chat rooms that he had, and then also the fact that he had the means and capabilities to fulfill the chats, fulfill what it was that he was going to do? And some stories, and then there's also some articles that allege that he had purchased items that he had planned to inflict pain on his victims with, that they were actually purchased. So is that fact? Is that now just a chat? Is it now just a fantasy, or is it a fantasy being developed and recognized now? You guys light up the comments and let me know your guys' thought on that. A documentary film called Thought Crimes, the case of the Cannibal Cop, was also chronicled Gilberto's arrest, trial, imprisonment, and release. Okay, and on May 11th, 2015. An episode of Law and Order Special Victims Unit titled Thought Criminal was inspired by Gilberto's case as well. And then finally, and last but not least, an episode in 2018 of Adult Swim show The Soft Focus with Jenna Friedman featured on an interview with Gilberto and his participation in the dating game style contest was also loosely based on his case. So then I asked the question, when should we be punished for our thoughts? Do you guys think that this case was simply merely based on thoughts and thoughts alone? I have a video clip with Gilberto talking that I should have already included by now, but if I didn't, I'll include that now. But let me know, light up the comments. When is the thought too much?
Officer Gilberto Valle was found guilty by a federal jury in March, back in 2013, of plotting to kidnap women. The prosecutors say it went on from there, too, that he planned to rape them, to torture them, cook them, and eat them. Valle's lawyer argued the former police officer's emails and online postings were just fantasy, role-playing, and dark improv theater. But the prosecutor said something very different. They said he was deadly serious and that he took actual concrete steps. In overturning Valle's conviction, the judge said that the evidence used to convict him was insufficient. Joining me to talk about
we
this
have the
case,
means and
CNN
ability to do that, and we also go out and allegedly purchase things to do that. Should that be a thing that we serve time for? I'd love to know you guys' opinion. I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here now, but if you guys are new here, welcome. If you guys have already been here and are returning, welcome back. Thank you guys so much for rocking with me. Like I always say, there's always another story to be told, but for now, bye.